What up, YouTube? It's your boy Prince E. I'm making this video basically to explain one of my songs that I just did. You might have heard it. It's called "The Brain," and I believe that this is one of the few songs that deserve an explanation. It would only be right as to explain why I did it, how I did it, and what was the reason, what does it mean, what are its implications. Basically, let me explain how I broke it down. In the first section, I explained the human brain from well, let me give you an introduction. I believe that the brain is the most important thing that we have to us. The most important thing to each one of us and to us as a species. When you're looking at me through that laptop or computer or desktop or cell phone, okay, what you're seeing is a copy of what actually exists. Your brain, the image is actually transferred into electrical signals. It passes through your visual cortex, goes into your occipital lobe, and the image is made sense of. It's turned into a copy and it's made sense of. So you're not actually seeing me as I exist. You're seeing a copy of what your brain perceives. Whether that really exists, that's debatable. But yeah, this is reality. Reality is constructed in your brain. It's the brain is a 3-pound organ. It's constructed of what is it? Like 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion neural connections, synapses. It's really amazing. I think that's more stars than in the galaxy, than are in the galaxy. So, the brain is the last frontier. Now, let me give another introduction. Now, the song, it was very academic, but that was the only way a person could do that. If you were displeased by the academic tone, it wasn't all academic though. It's music. It was musical. It had the cadences. It had the melodies. It was music, but it was also almost a lecture as well. And it wasn't me reading out of a textbook. It was me conveying the research that I've gained over the years in my studies of sociology, psychology, anthropology, and neurology. It was me explaining the brain on a superficial level, because getting too in depth would be academic and very boring. But and it was also my own extrapolations. It was my own interpretations of the future of mankind and where we're going. That was the last part, one of my favorite parts. But anyway, so let me break it down. In the first section of the song, I explain the brain from an evolutionary perspective. This means that I explain how we developed our complex brains. Now, modern science will tell you that we developed our brains because it was an adaptation. It was obviously a natural selection. We had to. We began living in groups and developing language, and our brains grew. Now, this wasn't purposeful. Evolution is non-directional. It's mutations and things of that nature. But this is how we were. We had to develop big brains in order to survive. We weren't as big as I am right now. You know what I'm saying? We were 4'2", 60 pounds. This is our hominid ancestors, the Australopithecines and the early hominids. So we had to outsmart our the predators. But that was the first part. In the second part, I explained the different faculties of the brain. Okay, I explain the different lobes, from the parietal lobe to the frontal lobe to the temporal to the occipital. I explain which each one does in isolation. However, my overarching point was that, I think I said, the frontal lobe is the Da Vinci, but the entire brain is the masterpiece. And this means that every single lobe in your brain works in concert with each other. You can't compartmentalize one, because they're all working together. It's teamwork to create, your brain as a whole in its totality. So yeah, I broke down each part of the brain in the second part of the song. And then the last part, which is my favorite part, and I think the most important part of the song, were the sociological implications of our mind, the ramifications that come out of our complex thinking. And especially, Western man, I give a brief. I also give a I talk about the good things as well, but I also talk about the negative things, and the negative things are very important. I speak about the scientific racism that has plagued science throughout history, and we believe that first of all, intelligence itself is very multi-dimensional. We don't know what intelligence is, but anyway, I start talking about the scientific racism, how we went from rocks to rockets, essentially. That was the whole theme of the song. But in the third part, I explain the McDonaldization, the greed, the colonialism, the capitalism, the states in which Western man lives, the state in which we live, and the imperialism that's going on, and just the spread of these ideas that are really detrimental to the planet. Now, does that mean we are intelligent, though? Are we intelligent if we're destroying the planet in which we live? Are we more intelligent than what we would call a primitive species of, I don't know, chimpanzee? Are we more intelligent than a bonobo or a crow? If we're destroying the planet and they can live in harmony with the planet. I don't think we'll last as long. Now, if you want to, define intelligence as success and longevity, I would say no. We've only been here a minute anyway. But anyway, I keep going on tangents. Another point that I wanted to bring up was something called neuroplasticity. Now, big word, simple meaning. The brain is plastic, okay? And now the brain isn't really plastic, but it can change like plastic. It is malleable. We can learn new things no matter what age we are. Now, there have been cases of people who've had strokes or hemispherectomies in which the entire one side of their brain has been taken out and replaced with cerebral spinal fluid. And an interesting thing happens. The other half of their brain begins to morph, and it begins to take on the characteristics that the other side of the brain would normally carry out. It begins to pick up these functions, and it's really a remarkable phenomenon. And my whole spin on it was, let's apply this socially. Let's apply this to the way in which we live. Let's rewire our brains and change the way we live. Let's live in harmony with the environment. And because it's not too late. It's not too late to do this. Not at all. It's not over yet. A lot of people might have you think it's over, but it's not over yet. But anyway, that was pretty much it in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions on the human brain, I'm not a neuroscientist or anything, but ask me. I don't know. I might be able to answer some of your questions. But the brain is just, it's remarkable, man. It's the most incredible thing that we have to us. Reality is created in the brain, or whatever reality really is. It's the final frontier, you know. It really is the final frontier. Between the ears and behind the eyes. You can actually purchase the song on iTunes now. It's up there. So I'm gonna give you guys a link in the description box. So definitely check that out, man. If you haven't heard the song, listen to it. I'm hearing really good things about it. It's very important that a lot of people hear it. So check that out. And get at me, y'all. If you have any more questions, I probably forgot to touch upon some things. But if you have any questions, get at me. Peace.